Hey, everybody. Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
All right, Dean, we are back to break down another one of our end user surveys from our BlueStar Nation blog.
Yes.
You folks all know about the BlueStar Nation blog, right?
Right?
I mean, right?
They should. They better.
They should. We've talked about it a few times.
If you don't, you need to.
It's a good place where we're doing some really interesting work.
Really good stuff.
And it's not just like we're just out there just blogging away and just random crap we can throw
Random, useless information.
Right. We're very deliberate about what we're doing there. We're trying to really craft stuff that's educational and useful for VARs, for ISVs, to understand our channel, to find opportunities, to find better places to present their technology, understand what's happening out there.
That's it.
And this one is a very deep dive survey.
Yes, it is.
As always,
in fact, it's called the deep dive survey.
Exactly.
Yes.
I highly recommend this one that you actually follow up on and read into a little further, because we're going to kind of skim the surface of it, and and I think there's some opportunity here to learn about some interesting stuff going on. In particular, this one's about the world of warehouses.
Yes.
Warehouse and supply chain.
Yep.
The technology that they're using. So let's just get into it. I think we should just go ahead and
plug in
and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right. As I mentioned, our topic today, we're getting into one of our surveys here. This is a survey we did on warehouse technology. It was sponsored by Zebra. I want to thank Zebra so much for doing a sponsorship of this particular one. They helped us out a little bit.
Yeah, it takes a little money to sometimes
it does,
to pull these surveys off.
And as you'll learn here in a moment, when I tell you some of the methodology, we went beyond our usual where just maybe we're employing our telemarketing team and just sending out some surveys, So we put some sort of professional effort into this one to really get some good responses. So we appreciate Zebra supporting that. They also helped us crafting some of the questions too. You gave us some suggestions on like, hey, here's stuff we'd like to learn about and understand about the market. Here's things we think VARs probably need to know about. So let's ask him these questions.
Perfect.
So let's start with that. And as always, the link to this survey and to the article rather that breaks down the survey is going to be in our show notes. Definitely check that out. Subscribe to the BlueStar Nation newsletter also, so you should when these are coming out, and you'll get these as soon as they're available. Good stuff here. So let's get into the methodology. So again, we worked with a third-party data collection company on this one. Usually we have our own in-house telemarketing team that we use for a lot of these surveys, or we'll send out some emails or whatever. But we actually,
a little bit of a different tactic.
Yeah, we actually went out and employed a company whose sole job is to go out and do these kind of surveys and drive survey interest and make calls and get people on the line. They made 1,750 calls. They got 98 responses. The survey was 45 questions long. Pretty long, detailed survey.
That is a longer, so that's why it's a deep dive.
Exactly.
Right.
And basically we were learning about things like daily experience with technology for these folks, their pain points, hardware, systems that they deploy, all this stuff that we wanted to learn about them and how they manage their business in order to get some more insights into warehouses and supply chain, and manufacturing folks that work in this sphere. So let's start with, a little bit of detail on who the folks are that we talked to. So we talked about 70%. We asked, what kind of business type they were. About 70% responded that they were either retailers or food and beverage production. So again, this is still in the supply chain or warehousing distribution side. But that was the two business types that were most readily identified. We also had about 18% that they were fulfillment centers or 3PLs.
Yeah, like warehouse, distribution centers, those kinds of folks.
Another 10%. Yeah, I said the warehouse distribution center specifically, but they might have been tied to something else also. But either way, most of these folks were apparently related in some way to retail or food and beverage production. We also asked about their job experience. Over 60% were 5 to 10 years of experience. Another 32% at 10 to 20 years. Very few that were less than that. So people with a lot of experience in the industry.
No, that was my takeaway on that one, right? I mean, these people know what they're talking about.
That's true.
It's not like they're newbies coming into the warehouse and saying, I got some a majority of people were 5 to 20 years of experience in there. Yeah,
which means they've experienced a lot of the ups and downs of supply chain, and certainly what has happened over the last few years too.
Yeah.
And then on the job seniority side of things, a full almost 70%, or rather 80%, were manager or senior manager, and about almost another 20% were director level. So we're talking folks that are in there, out there every day, that are on the floor, that are doing the work, that are managing people, that are seeing processes, that know what's working and what isn't, which made them the perfect kind of person to talk to for this survey. All right, so now let's get into some of the actual survey findings here, and I want to start with common errors, because this is always important to understand, like, where are pain points happening? Because if you're any kind of salesperson, you want to know where are the pain points, where are the challenges, what can I address and help with? So we asked a question about, basically, where are you seeing errors, and how often are you seeing errors in the following areas? So we asked about receiving, put away, picking, packing, shipping, inventory, and returns. And basically on a scale, we basically said, hey, are you seeing these errors very often, somewhat often, or not often at all? And of course, the ones we wanted to learn about, hey, where are everybody saying very often that they're experiencing errors? The number one answer was inventory, which probably isn't a huge surprise. 64% of respondents said they were experiencing inventory errors very often in their business. And then we had two responses that were at 47 and 46% respectively, shipping errors and put away errors. So those were definitely the three biggest places where people said, yeah, we're seeing errors very often, at least half or more of the time. It's very often we're having these errors. What did you make of that? Did anything stand out there about those?
I mean, it's a little, I don't know. I thought the inventory errors was a little high to me. I mean, well, I mean, where are you experiencing
You'd think by this
errors?
point maybe they wouldn't be, but
I would have hoped it would have been this. I mean, 64% is a lot, right?
That's true, yeah.
64% of people saying very often there is an inventory error, so, with the technology that we have in place, apparently it's still error ridden. And I don't know if that now further classifies that it's the put away errors and the shipping errors are the two in that inventory mix, which ranked again very high as being very often there's errors in those. Putaways I get. I mean, putaways you receive the way the world receives today. You get, you're getting a skid of stuff that you don't really necessarily might not know what it all is. Right. And yet you're tasked with putting it away. So you put it on a shelf or you're going to put it somewhere, right? Well, I got to put it somewhere. And then that leads to errors.
A box might say, hey, this is a box of widget A. And
Absolutely.
You're like, all right, I'll put it where widgets A's are. And then you open it later and find out it's actually widget B's.
That's it. Or especially if you're a retailer. I mean, you're expecting a shipment of 2,000 medium shirts. Okay, you get a box. Do you know there's 2,000 in them? You're not going to count them. No, you're just going to take them on their word that they got 2,000. So, but that could lead to some errors, right? And I guess that's leading to the inventory errors. So maybe, I don't know. I was just hoping we'd be a little bit better off than we were at those. Now, return errors was also relatively low. I mean, so very often it was 14% said, they're not receiving a lot of return errors very often. So, we talk about the whole reverse logistics and how that is just miring the whole supply chain issue. Supply chain used to be getting into, because now it's that plus the reverse logistics. And so
now to add on to that, we did ask about that in particular. Only 18% of respondents handled reverse logistics at all.
Okay, so that's fair.
So the volume of folks that were even doing it was fairly small amongst all these, which I also think is interesting, because it still indicates that there's a big segmentation happening.
They aren't doing it
in a lot of supply chain where there's someone else is taking care of the reverse logistics. Either they're not allowing doing the returns at all, or they have someone else doing that part of the business for them, and it's not happening in the same place that shipping distribution are happening. And we did also ask those folks who said they did reverse logistics what some of their process improvements could be. And you had stuff like better return policies. Someone mentioned RFID and barcode scanning technology for better tracking identification, better communication and coordination between suppliers, manufacturers, and retails, and simplifying this was an interesting answer. Simplifying the process by using predictive management software to reduce downtime and improve operational efficiency. I hope that person has a good position at their company, right? Because they seem to have some very smart ideas that people better be listening to.
Absolutely. I called all those out. And we could dive into all those, individually there, but it's just picking up on that. Absolutely. This person clearly understands the power of predictive analytics and how it can help management reducing downtime and improving operational efficiencies. Bingo. That's all a part of it. And, going back to the other one, a couple couple of other ones that again, that weren't highlighted, but picking errors still running at about 30% very often.
Yeah.
And what was it? I know we're going to get to it, but it's like 99% of these folks are using gear. I mean, they're using barcode technology.
Yeah.
So, and they're still having 32% picking errors, or 27% picking errors,
32%
packing errors. It's like, holy moly, hold on there.
Yeah, I mean, like there was almost nothing where anyone said that they were not experiencing errors often at all.
Right.
Like the only one that did was 22% said return errors, and I imagine a lot of those are probably the folks that just weren't doing it anyway.
Exactly.
So they just answer, "Oh, it's not."
No, that's
not
a really
happening at
good
all.
point. Really good
But
point.
yes, you're right. Like I mean, outside of the return errors, picking errors was the lowest percentage of very often errors, and that was at 27%, which to me, that's still a quarter of respondents that are saying, yeah, I'm having errors
now
very often in basically every single one of these areas.
And I guess that's a relative term. What does very often mean?
This is
it
true.
like once a day?
I suppose it depends on your perspective, yeah.
Because as a distributor, I know that we have picking errors, right? But how do you quantify very often? I mean, it's a really low percentage of the total volume,
right?
But it still happens.
Yeah, we
it
probably could have
does
added a little more
happen
context to that question
all the time. But it's a relatively I don't know what our pick accuracy. It's like 99.8 or something like that.
But I would hope you wouldn't call that very often. If it happened once a week, that's I would hope no one thinks that. But I guess it depends how much of a perfectionist you are.
That's a really good
it happened once last year. Very often.
That's too often. Yeah. So that's pretty good. I'm going to go back to a couple of the other opinion things that we had at there. RFID and barcode scanning technology for better tracking and identifying that can handle inventory management simultaneously. So even somebody commenting on the whole RFID and barcode living together, playing together.
Right.
I thought that was really intuitive as well. We'll get into it, but I was really surprised at how many people are using RFID technology. Really blown away.
One of my biggest takeaways
by that for sure. And then finally, the improved communication. I know down here, one of them talks about the two-way radio if they're still using that, and it's interesting that just the mashup of barcoding technology plus some old world technology, of good old communication. I don't want to get ahead of the game here, but yeah,
no, it's fine.
Some
that's
good
not
stats
what we're really
just coming out of
anyway.
these main pain points, right?
Yep.
But to your point, it's you got to unearth them, and clearly these are still we think we know we're doing a much better job than paper and stuff like that, but there's still some work to be done.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so next up, we had a series of questions where we asked a lot of details about technology in use. And I'm going to run through some of these. First of all, I want to know, we did ask a question about hey, what devices or what brand of devices are most in use in your business? And because Zebra sponsored this, and we'll call them out in particular here, 28% of respondents said they were using Zebra Technologies mobile devices, whether it was barcode scanners, RFID, mobile computers, whatever it was. 28% called them out. Now, to be fair here, we did not give people a list of manufacturers and say, hey, pick and tell us which ones out of these, and maybe they pick ones they recognize. That was an open-ended question. We simply asked, what brands are you using? And I'll be honest, there's a lot of brands they named that I've never
heard of them. I've never heard of them.
But Zebra definitely stood out at the top.
There's a good 3 or 4 that I've never heard of.
Exactly. So, they stood at the top, but there was also a wide swath of other types of brands. Again, stuff I'd never heard of, stuff that you're very familiar with.
But still the dominant player, and that was to be expected.
Exactly. Yeah. Nothing particularly surprising there. Then let's get into some questions that we asked about some. Again, I want to run through all of these, type of device stuff.
All right.
Device in use and all the details about that, and then I'll let you comment on it here. So first, we asked what type of devices are in use in your business. 100% of people said barcode scanners. 96% said RFID scanners. 93% said rugged computers with scanning capabilities. 59% said fixed RFID, and only 3% said finger or wrist scanners. Now, going back to that RFID, because again, this was I think a big standout to me, and it sounds like it was to you too. 95% of people said they use RFID in their business every day. And I'll just say for a moment, and we'll probably get back to that in a moment, but I know we've talked a lot on this show, and is it RFID time yet?
Yeah, right.
Is RFID here?
Yep.
How do we grow adoption of RFID?
Yep.
Maybe, across all industries, there's still room for growth, but it sounds like in supply chain and in, retail and food and beverage
because this was
manufacturing,
heavy on that.
that it's here and it's already table stakes. They're already using it, and there's not, it's not you got to talk them into it at this point. It's already there. To go on, we also asked about satisfaction with devices in use on a 1 to 10 scale. Most said 7 or 8. There was only one that was even below a 6 on those ratings. So most people are happy with the devices they are using. We asked about Windows and Windows versus Android here. Most of the respondents, 89%, said they are still using Windows OS for at least half of their devices. So even though Windows is sunsetting, it has not gone away by any means yet. There's still a lot of folks out there using it on their devices. And finally, we asked how many devices, different types of devices, mobile devices, are typically in use per shift by your employees. And the average answer was 2 to 3 devices per shift. So with all that knowledge here about all the devices in use, what kinds, brand, RFID, satisfaction. What thoughts do you have about all of this stuff, Dean?
Well, again, I'm just going to point to the RFID one. I mean, to me, that was really surprising that 95%, right?
Yeah.
Are saying they're using it daily.
I think it was basically all but one person.
Yeah.
One or two people.
I mean, to me, I'm just, it's very surprising that because, knowing what I know about the technology that everybody probably listening to this understands is that you got tag technology. It's more than just the readers and the antennas.
Right.
It's the whole gamut of getting the tags on the products all the way down to the manufacturer level or the suppliers thereof. Now, in the food industry, it's not maybe as surprising because with the whole traceability and the need to understand, a lot more important there. I feel like they will really have been ahead of the game as compared to like normal retail for quite some time. And we did have a pretty significant amount of people, as 32% were in the food and beverage production that answered this. So that's fair.
That checks, yeah.
But 40% were retailers, and honestly, unless you're Walmart or some of the other players that are in this, it's still, to me, it's very much a tier 1 type of a thing. And the RFID hasn't really trickled down to the SMB just yet. In fact, I just came off an executive summit where we were talking about RFID and its need to get down to the product level in the SMB marketplace to be an effective. And just the push that the Walmarts of the world are having in that world, because they've dictated that it's got to be all the way down to the product level, per shirt type of a thing. I'm talking not just like SKU level, item level. Yeah, thank you. Item level RFID. I mean, that takes a lot of effort to get
it solves that problem you were talking about earlier about, having a box that, is supposed to have 2,000 shirts in it. Do you really know that?
Yep.
Well, if all of them are RFID tagged, yes, you do know that.
Yes, absolutely.
You know you've got a box that's supposed to have that amount, and you actually can verify how much are in there, too.
Yep.
And I would bet that if, as we're talking about this and as we do the 95% that say they are using it daily, I would bet that we probably are talking more high level, where it's maybe like tracking boxes or trucks, something to that effect,
or a bin,
exactly. Not necessarily. If we asked about item level, I bet that number would probably be significantly.
I would agree with you there, especially like 3PLs. They've all got bin level RFIDs. If there's any type of automation, they're probably using RFID to track that, as it goes around the facility for sure. Yeah. And so to your commentary, maybe I am thinking down to the item level, and it's still going to take us some time to get there.
Yeah, there's still room to grow, I think. But I just will say, I think because sometimes I feel like there's an attitude of like, we've got to teach people about RFID and what it means and what it does and how it works. I don't think you need to do that. I think most of these folks, they may not be using it in quite the ways they could be and should be, but I think they at least get it. They at least know what RFID does, and maybe they just need a partner to help them take it to the next level and maybe get it down to that item level, or come up with new and creative ways to use it, or help streamline and simplify like the software side of things. So, it's not to say that, hey, you shouldn't be talking about RFID anymore. Everyone's using it. More of, don't go in assuming someone doesn't. This is one of those conversations where you don't have to dumb it down for the folks that you think, may not know about it, because I think they're going to know about it at this point.
Yeah. And just kind of to put a bow around the RFID part of it, it was 96% had the handheld readers. About 60%, 58.8, are using VIX readers at the bay door and stuff like that. So even there, a pretty good use of the technology. Now, we've been, I guess what I was a little bit surprised at, the lack of use would be your wrist or your finger scanners, because that's a pretty cool technology, and it's very ergonomic, and it helps in the whole workflow a lot more. But it's just the adaptation is not there just yet, apparently. With only 3% of these folks saying, yeah, we use it, that's like, it was like three responses. It wasn't a lot of people.
Right. Yeah, 100% of people were using barcode scanners, but not many have made that trade.
3%. Yeah, only 3 of them are using ring scanners. It's like, that's interesting because, again, just the efficiency of getting it done seems kind of like intuitive that you would use that type of technology. Now, the other one, did you get into the how many different computing devices?
The 2 to 3 devices per shift.
Yes, I thought that was a little surprising. Yeah. So to me, it's like, okay, whoa, hold on. I thought, here I am in my utopia. It's like the workers using one device. And they're just, I use it to do this, do that. Yeah. 2 to 3 devices, a lot of devices. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, wait a minute. Now they need a holster of stuff.
Right, and that's where it was interesting to me because I go back and I look at those type of devices and. We specifically, when we asked about rugged computers, we didn't say just mobile computers. We specifically asked rugged computers with scanning capabilities. Mm-hmm. So in my mind, if 93% of you are using those, but you're also 100% of you are using barcode scanners, unless somebody just said yes to both, meaning the same thing, which is possible. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would still think, though, it sounds like that means there are people out there that are in one holster pulling out just a standard barcode scanner, and in another using a mobile computer that could do scanning capabilities, but maybe they're not using it for that, and they're using 2 different. When there's plenty of ways you could use them both together easily. I mean, I know most mobile computers from most companies have the option to at least have like, a pistol grip of some sort or, a trigger that you can use to mount it on and do your scanning and then also still have your mobile capabilities. Right. So I find that interesting. Like I'd be curious if there's redundancy there. And that might be a good question to ask about because, if they're looking to make upgrades or looking to figure out how to save money, maybe if you can look at them and say, hey, why are you using a barcode scanner and a mobile computer and maybe even an RFID device because you can get, again, now you can get ones that have all 3 of those in one.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the second clue that we have in there, because we did add communication devices like phones or two-way radios, and that, again, that's where I'm at. My all-in-one world, everything's on that one. The one device can do the phone, so it's unified communication. It's got the barcode scanning. Yes, you could put a sled on it, so now it's an RFID reader too. To me, it just seems like one device is the go-to device, not the need for 3 in that case.
Yeah, why would you be using a two-way radio at this point when your mobile computers exist?
Well,
if 93% of you are carrying around a rugged computer, I promise you it has communication technology.
Can I throw out the percentage that are still used? Isn't it like 63% are still using two-way radios? I was like, that was really surprising to me. To your point, again, I just have this vision that everybody's got these ruggedized mobile computer devices now that can do all these things, and yet they're still using the good old trusty dusty two-way radio. Motorola was just entrenched with that, I would suppose.
Yeah. And I didn't have it on here also, on our list of stuff to talk about, but one thing we did ask also is basically, do you use devices that could be considered consumer grade in non-office areas of your business? 88%, almost 90% said no. They were not. Only 11%.
That's good news.
Only 11% said
That's good news. Yeah.
So, and I'm not necessarily surprised by that. I feel like there are other industries where, like, if you went front of house in retail or in healthcare or a lot of customer-facing areas, I feel that's where you see more often than not folks using consumer devices where they could be using rugged or purpose-built devices instead. But I think back of the house like this, when we're talking like in these rugged areas where you can't afford to drop your iPhone and you can't afford to have a flimsy $1,000 device that's a personal device in use, it makes more sense that more of them definitely should be using non-consumer devices at this point. And 11%, if you can find them, go out and have a conversation with them.
Still convert them. But hey,
I take that switch.
Yeah, I take that as being relatively good news for the channel in the sense that the message has gone out there that purpose-built devices in this area are far better than consumer devices. And that's going to lead to a healthy channel in the future that it's not just convincing the people, but the proof is in the pudding. Right. And I think a lot of folks, we all heard about the Home Depots of the world who bought 10,000 iPhones and then they don't use them anymore, right? They're back to purpose-built devices, and
there's still a lot of that fly-by-night like app, companies out there.
Sure.
Like, well, we can just put an app on your consumer device that's just as good as
and
this.
I think this reflects it. It's going to be around 10%. Maybe we can still chip away at that and get it down in the 5% range. It'll all always be there.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Someone's always going to be looking
there.
for the cheaper route.
That's right.
Or what they assume is the cheaper route.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So that's pretty interesting. Now, as just kind of putting a bow around the multiple devices, I do feel bad for the 5% that has more than 3 devices. So who the heck are you, and what the heck are your other devices out there that you need that your employees are like dragging around?
That is a great question.
Maybe it's a mobile printer. I don't know.
Can you imagine just loaded down with 20 pounds of tech every day?
Like gear. Oh no, I need a device for this and a
Yeah.
device for that, and oh my gosh.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Your whole business grinds to a halt because somebody can't find their mobile computer or something. I don't know. Yeah, that sounds like that's the kind of person. If you walk in there into their business and see them all toting around 4 or 5 devices, that's when you need to be like, all right. Just start rubbing your hands and thinking, there's some opportunity here because there's no reason they should be doing this. So, all right, so let's get into. We asked some other questions about overall technology in use and the technology kind of status and the status quo basically for these type of facilities. And we asked some details about, IT departments in particular, their in-house versus external IT, how much they're using each of the other. So we asked about in-house IT, and 42% said that they had 25 to 50 people on staff in-house doing IT for them. That was by far the largest number, and you had a couple that had larger quantities than that, but that was on average the highest amount was that. There was another 20% that said 11 to 20, about 20% more also that said 51 to 100. So most folks have somewhere between 11 to 100 IT members, which is a pretty broad range.
Huge, yeah.
And most of them fall in the 25 to 50 range. That also still feels like a pretty big operation.
Absolutely,
they have that many people working their IT.
Sure, yeah.
And now, mind you, we also asked about external IT and when they use them, and there was a decent amount of people that did that too. So I kind of want to clarify this a little bit too then. So we also asked, because we wanted to understand, okay, so you have an in-house IT, but you also occasionally use outside IT.
Yep.
What responsibilities are you divvying up between them?
Yep.
On the in-house side, the overwhelming majority, almost 100%, say they were using their in-house IT to help manage their ERP.
All around the ERP.
Makes sense.
Yep. Got to keep the core pumping along
the folks
there,
that are there in the business every day are the ones that make the most sense to be working on that.
Yep.
A significant chunk, about 95% said hardware procurement was a big part of their in-house IT responsibilities. A lot of networking, network support, and network infrastructure were in use there.
Yep.
And to some smaller extent, only about, actually still not bad, maybe about almost 90% said they were using their in-house IT for hardware tech support. Now, I was more interested, obviously, because it's relevant to us and to our VARs, outside IT. Where are they reaching out outside of their business to bring folks in to help them out?
Yep.
Overwhelmingly, almost 90%, about 85% of them said cybersecurity.
And I think that's why that's still a big play, in of interest to resellers, to VARs. What's the cybersecurity play? How can we play there? Yep.
Exactly. Another 75% or so said software support, that was a big deal for them.
Yep, makes sense.
Hardware repair. So we had hardware tech support and procurement on the in-house team. But repair, they're still farming that out to external IT.
Makes sense. There
is some tech support also there. About a little over 50% said they were using external IT for tech support, and another 50% said software procurement. So to me, the big 3 takeaways there: cybersecurity, software support, and procurement. Those are the 3 things that they're looking outside to get. So in my mind, that means, hey, you should probably have cybersecurity in your portfolio in some way if you can, and you should, even if you're not a software company, you should have some access and some inside tracks to software that can help these folks out, because they're looking externally to find software procurement and support. And if you can be that go-to that has those connections, you probably should be involved with that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is also a commentary on just where MSPs have lived in that world of software support and procurement forever. And I think that continues to blur. There's more solution integrators, more value, what we call a traditional value-added reseller, getting into the space of software support. And that's why you're seeing these marketplaces come to be in things of that nature. That's why BlueStar has an ISV program and things of that nature. All of that is around that. What this survey reinforces, that the companies are looking outside for that type of support. Cybersecurity is just like a no-brainer, right? And it's just one of those where, of course, nobody can do that in-house. You're not going to come up with your own, cybersecurity software, threat detection, stuff like that. So yeah, all that is clearly external. And then again, just the last commentary, hardware procurement in-house, about 94% of respondents said yes. So there you go. I mean, for the hardware that you are selling, it's as you know, probably it is internal resources that are doing that. We've commented that, it's usually a group. And knowing that the average IT departments are 11 to 20, what was it? 25 to 50. Is 42% of them?
That's a lot of people.
A lot of people making, maybe having an influence on that or a decision around it. So it's that group think, and from a sales perspective, got to have all those people aligned with your solution.
Now, we're not going to go too far down this rabbit hole, but we did ask a question around what is your process like when it's time to replace warehouse tech hardware?
I see.
And I think we maybe didn't ask this question quite the right way, because a lot of the responses were very similar, which was basically just figure out what we need, talk about it, figure out what meets our needs, talk about it with IT, and then eventually someone buys what we need, or we reach out and get some quotes or something. Now, those answers are kind of generic, and you can see more of those answers on the actual article. But something that did stand out to me, though, is, again, yes, to your point, I was thinking back to that idea that we've talked about many times over when we had all those discussions about the challenger customer and about buying groups and understanding that there's more than one person who's making these decisions. All of these answers kind of reflected that. It sounded like there's a bunch of people that are talking and deciding, what do we need? What do we need? What specs are we looking for? What price point are we looking at? All these people are deciding this stuff, and you need to be involved as early as you possibly can, because if they're having all these conversations and then start reaching out, they've already made up most of their mind. They've already had an idea of what they're doing, and they're probably just out there looking for pricing at that point, or looking for who can fulfill the quickest at that point. If you're involved earlier and you get to know key players who are key decision makers or key people that have a influence on what the final decision is going to be, those are the folks that you are going to want to be talking to on a regular basis, so that when these final decisions are finally coming, before they officially reach out, they've already got some insight from someone on the inside, and you have already become a trusted person that they can reach out to. That's what I got out of some of those answers. They weren't the best answers they could have been. They were very, like I said, they were very generic, but that also tells me that they probably don't have a great process in mind.
No,
it's
they
just
don't.
Crap,
something went wrong.
We need something new, something's gone wrong, and we need to upgrade, or we need something different, or we need to streamline or improve our process. Let's get together and have a bunch of random conversations about this and then go get some prices.
Or more, it's break fix, and they're maybe not thinking about the holistic solution, about how they could be a little bit more efficient, incorporating either things, multiple things onto one device or other technologies, et cetera. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, we also asked a couple questions about media supplies, because, hey,
I love that we've dropped this in there.
Recurring revenue. Let's be honest. We're always talking about how can we find recurring revenue for VARs.
Absolutely.
And there is plenty of tagging, label printing, RFID labeling, all kinds of that stuff is happening in warehouses and distribution. So we asked, hey, how are you sourcing your supplies right now? About 50% said their in-house team is doing that process themselves. They're taking care of sourcing and getting a hold of media. Another 20% said they were using a third-party partner managing that. And 27, almost 30%, 28% said they were using an automated system for reordering, which is the smart way to do it, obviously. So we followed up asking, hey, are you interested in the idea of automatic reordering of these supplies? 75% said yes, they would be open to exploring automatic reordering of these products. So that's one of those things that tells me, all right, there is opportunity there again for recurring revenue for you and your business. If you can be that partner that is helping them set up automated reordering, taking care of that process for them, taking that out of their hands, one less thing that 3 or 4 people on their team need to be worried about. You're taking that out of their hands and saying, hey, we'll take care of making sure you always have enough media and supplies. Just, pay us X amount a month and we'll take care of this for you.
Absolutely.
There's opportunity there.
No doubt about it. And if you're looking to get into the managed service realm, to me, this is a no-brainer right here, in the sense that, it's just one of those things that happens, meaning labels and printers and consumables are consumed.
You always have to buy more.
So you got to keep buying them. And there's an opportunity. If 75% are open to the idea of exploring automation, and you're providing that managed service to them, where you're monitoring the usage, you can do that. There's software now The manufacturers have it. There are third-party software that can help you on this whole cloud print management services front, where from your knock, you know how much is being consumed and stuff like that. You can do the automation of the reorder, and yet you're still making the margin on that. Number one. Number two, it makes you even more sticky with that customer, that now you're in there every day. You're a business partner now all of a sudden. You're not just somebody who's providing them with a service.
You're not a one and done partner. Kind of person.
Absolutely, because now you have a vested interest in their business as well. So this data rings true of the fact that there's opportunity there, especially if you got 75% of the people saying they're willing to explore automation and reordering of these products. Come on now, that's a great opportunity.
Low-hanging fruit right there.
Low-hanging fruit, yeah. And 52% of them are doing it in-house today.
Right.
So, and they kind of probably don't want to do that, especially IT people. You think IT people want to sit there and reorder consumables?
No one wants to be writing up POs.
Guarantee
No.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They'd rather be doing their techie stuff, right? In the server room or something. They got other stuff to do rather than ordering consumables. You can take that off their plate for them.
Exactly. Finally, we asked a question that's, I think, always on everyone's mind is what emerging technologies do you foresee investing in the next 5 years?
Now, this was a little confusing for me, but go ahead.
It was for me a little bit too. So number one was robotics and automation. That checks out. We had, we just talked about on our Tech Bites episode last week all about how at ProMat, that was one of the top
huge
technologies and conversations is overcoming labor shortages, automation, and robotics, all that kind of stuff. That checks out. AI is another one, again, which can kind of lend itself to that. WMS was a top one.
Yeah, but the next one.
RFID. So you're right. I felt the same way. At least
I'm like, wait a minute.
What was our total? RFID was almost 50% of people said that they were looking to invest in RFID in the next 5 years.
Yeah, so 95% of them said they were using it.
So they're already using it, but they also want to invest in it. So
there's something wrong there.
This is one of those places where if I was someone doing the survey, I would have been like, wait a minute. You just told me you've got it, but you need it. Can you explain that a little bit more? Granted, these folks, they're just trying to get through these questions. They didn't
right.
We didn't ask them to hey, do some critical follow up here. But that would be an interesting, and it might be a question for your customers too, is to go out to them and say, hey, I see you're already using RFID. You know what? I read a recent survey that folks like you, almost half of people in your position are still looking at investing in RFID. What does that mean? Are you trying to do something better? Are you trying to do more?
Good point.
Are you trying to go item level? Are you trying to, do you not like your current RFID process? What does that mean? Because that could still mean, again, that there's some opportunities here with RFID, but we need to figure out what that means in the context of so many people that are already doing it.
I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, to me, this number actually seems a little bit more realistic, that about 50% of the people are thinking RFID is an emerging tech, even though it's been around for a long time, that they foresee investing in to make their infrastructure better. That, to me, seems pretty realistic. Honestly, it's a little bit more believable than the 95% that say they're using it today. So maybe they're not using it, but they're aware that other people, other partners in the supply chain are utilizing it. I don't know, but again, at the end of the road, RFID is clearly one of those technologies that's getting a lot of looks right now, and for good reason. It can bring efficiencies, item level, down to the item level, awareness and visibility. And supply chain right now is all about visibility, knowing where X is at any point in time in its life, from the beginning of its manufacturing all the way through to its sale, is huge. It's huge. So an RFID brings that to you.
Yep. I agree. Yeah, I didn't have anything else to add there. That was definitely one that really stood out to me. The others all made sense, and it's the kind of emerging technology we're paying attention to also.
Yep.
All right, well, hey, we're going to wrap this up in a moment with our value to the VAR segment. But before we do that, I want to, as always, thank our sponsors of the TEConnect podcast, our TEConnect program. Special shout out to Zebra for this one because, again, they helped us with this particular survey. They had some great questions that they wanted answered. I think they were the ones in particular that said, hey, ask them about media and consumables because there's opportunity there. And, Zebra does a lot with that. They have their own certified supplies and whatnot. So that, they were throwing that out there, and for good reason. So thank you so much to them and to everyone else that supports the show. As always, if you like the show, you need to be subscribing to us, whether you're on YouTube, the podcast, or your choice.
Absolutely.
And in addition to doing that, share it with somebody. Tell one of your colleagues,
It's okay
tell
to share.
someone,
Yes.
You don't have to keep this to yourself.
Like right now, if you're sitting next to a buddy or one of your teammates, you're like, hey, by the way, you should check this out.
Yeah, you check these guys out. They're really goofy, and I laugh at them several times every episode. Not because they're funny, but just because they're goofballs.
Yeah, right.
Whatever it is, just share it. If you want, give me, whether it's to give somebody good information or laugh for the day, tell somebody else about it. Hey, suggest topics to us also.
Yes, there you go.
We need to know what you want to know at these surveys. We're doing these surveys on your behalf. If there's a type of end user that you want to hear from, that you think would be vital to your business and understanding more about who they are and what they do, tell us about that, and we will be happy to put together a survey and go reach out to some of these end users and find out what's going on in their business to
let
help
us do the hard work of finding out the information for you.
Exactly. Do you want to go around and make 1,700 calls yourself, or thousands of calls yourself, or send out dozens of emails, or
and think about how good you would look to the boss after you. Hey, I had BlueStar. They ran this little survey, and there's this opportunity, boss, that I think we can get into. And here's the quantifiable data.
There you go.
See, we can help you.
Yeah, look at us. Look at us here, helping you move up the corporate ladder.
There it is. Boom. Yeah.
So don't hesitate to reach out. There's, you can always contact us and send us your info about what you want to see on the show. There's always a link in the show notes where you can tell us what topics you want. Just for submitting those, we'll send you a TEConnect podcast t-shirt. Even if we don't use it, send it to us. And hey, make sure you're also following BlueStar on LinkedIn. That is the place to keep up with everything we've got going on.
Yep.
There's always weekly recaps of this podcast. If you missed an episode and you want to recap, or maybe it's not something you felt like listening to the whole ep, but you want to know what we talked about, you can always find those there. Our unboxed videos, find out what events are going on, just what cool stuff we got going on. All these articles on BlueStar Nation, we always post them there.
Good stuff.
Make sure you're following us. It's very important to do that. And of course, if you want to reach out to us directly to talk about the podcast, or maybe just send us a note saying, hey, I like what you guys do. We like to hear that from time to time.
We like to hear that too.
You can always find us on Twitter at TEConnectPod. Email us, TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. All right, let's wrap things up here. Let's start with our value to the VAR.
Yeah.
So let's kind of wrap this up here. Is there anything that supply chain VARs could do immediately to capitalize on some of the findings we've talked about today?
So one of them to me is, if you're not into M2M, mobile device management, one of the things that I wanted to call out is you should be, because there's an opportunity. I mean, look at all the people that are using multiple devices, just to kind of go back to that one, and it's a large percentage of people that are using 2 to 3 devices. 71% is who's claiming that they're using multiple devices. If you don't have an M2M play, and again, this is a great way for you to get your whole business into the managed services very easily. You can manage that for them, right? You can manage these devices and become that trusted advisor, become that trusted person to the IT department who's helping to manage those devices above and beyond the own. But that's the one I wanted to call out. Yeah, there's an M2M play here. For sure.
Totally.
Yeah. What do you think? You're going to go the cybersecurity angle, aren't you?
Well, that's definitely one that stood out to me. And maybe that's not your play. Maybe that's not your thing. But I was also, my thing is, hey, start talking about emerging tech. So the stuff that they said, that everyone said that they're considering investing in or expecting to invest in. Robotics, automation, AI, upgrading their WMS. I'm assuming most of them probably have a WMS. They're just looking to make an upgrade. RFID upgrades or changes, whatever that might mean. Make sure you're talking
just
about
those 4 alone, right there.
Even if it's not your niche right now, or even if you don't know where the play is, or you don't have any real insight into what to do there, or don't have a partner, you should at least be having conversations about that with them, and then also finding partners that can help you out with that. So that when someone does come to you and is looking for automation or robotics or an AI play, you've got partners that you can pull in to have those conversations right off the bat. So I'd say start thinking about that. Definitely offer support for those external needs. If you can add cybersecurity to your tech stack or partner up with someone that can do it, get that in there, because there's clearly a need externally for partners like you to help them out with that. Don't leave it to just like the cybersecurity firm. Again, this is an opportunity where you having that, I mean, it can be another firm that's doing cybersecurity.
Oh, for sure.
But if it's all routing through you are the front-facing partner that draws in the software companies, because again, that's the other one that they were saying they were taking externally. If all that's filtering through you, but you are the person they go to for all of their needs, that puts you in the position to be someone that they trust to help partner up, whether you get a piece of the back end from the software companies or cybersecurity to make the introductions, or putting yourself in a place where anytime hardware needs do come up, that's always coming through you. So even if software cybersecurity is not your play, have connections there, because people will come and look to you to help them figure out, like, you're my guy, you're my gal for this particular, for tech support outside in general. Can you help me find someone to give me this software?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not your thing. Fine. You've got the connections to help them out.
Go deeper and wider. That's right. Yep, for
so
sure.
I think that's it. And again, just building your network of software partners. Again, we have our TEConnect program for a reason.
Yep.
We are always happy to help connect you with a software partner.
Yeah, just reach out to us for sure.
Reach out to us.
Yep.
We will, if you've got a problem, you're like, hey, I need somebody that can provide software for this. I promise you we can probably give you a list of 10 different companies to reach out to.
Absolutely. We get pinged all the time on that, so don't be afraid. Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure. Yep.
All right, so that's our value of the VAR. Let's wrap up, as always, with our favorite segment, What's TEConnecting with You?
Right, yeah.
This is where we get to talk about something in the world of science, tech, business,
Or
innovation, or not.
I just got something that's confounding today.
Something we just feel like talking about. So,
Well,
Dean, what's TEConnecting with you?
Here it is with me. I'll read the headline to you. Canadian authorities announced they are investigating the theft of around $15 million in gold and valuables that were stolen from the holding cargo facility at the Toronto Pearson International Airport this week. So
Okay.
that's huge. So let me just kind of rewind a little bit here. The Toronto, if you've never been to Pearson, it is a huge modern airport.
I've not.
Very big.
Yeah.
Think any big, airport that you've ever been to. Atlanta, I mean, it's on par with all those places. Nice big facility. How does $15 million worth of gold and valuables get stolen in this age of video surveillance?
No doubt.
And by the way, no suspects have been identified for this yet.
Wow.
So how
It's an
does this
inside job.
how does this happen? Right?
It's gotta be an
It's got to be
inside job.
with video surveillance, with security at airports, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I mean, you're like,
how do you
scale a fence? You're arrested before you even get near a runway.
Exactly. Thank you, brother. Yes. So, they apparently the gold and valuables were transferred to a facility after being taken off the plane. Authorities said the thieves accessed the public side of a warehouse that is
good grief.
leased through a third party, I guess, outside the airport's security to get to the loot. But still, I don't believe it. It has to be an inside job. And you would think that that's pretty big, but that did uncover yet another funny story. Back a few years ago, back in 2012, this is not the first time this has happened in Pearson. Back in 2012,
Someone's getting fired.
thieves ran off with 3,000 tons of maple syrup valued at $14.4 million. So that was the second biggest heist. That used to be the biggest
Who
heist.
knew the maple syrup was worth that much? Damn, that is literal liquid gold.
I want to know how it is literal liquid gold, but how do you run off with 3,000 tons of something and nobody knows? Yeah, that's just, it's got to be an inside job.
I mean, that is it just like because the place is just so big and there's so many constant people in and out and so many third-party contractors.
No, I mean, you got to lock it down, right? That's what I'm saying. In this age of like hyper security, cameras everywhere, it has to be something's a little fishy here, right? Like,
something's off.
The camera went off for a couple hours at this point in time. It's like the what is it? The guy that
one of those Ocean's movies or something.
No, it's the Epstein thing where
God,
he was murdered, but the cameras weren't working for 2 hours.
That's what you always see in all the detective shows. Like, there's some reason there's a break in the camera feed for this time. I don't know what happened. Or like, wait, look, that's on a loop.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, these people probably actually aren't that smart in doing this kind of stuff, and yet somehow they're still getting away with it.
Still getting away with it. $15 million in gold, apparently, right out of Pearson's airport, the Pearson International.
So I think the lesson here is don't ship any of your valuables through that airport. If you have something of value,
you happen to have $15 million worth of gold,
pay the extra fee to route it somewhere else if you got to,
Oh, man. All right, what's TEConnecting with you?
All right, so did you ever get into the brewing your own beer craze?
Oh, yes.
Did you?
Yeah. Now, I didn't actually do it, but I had neighbors. Anyway, I was a part of that.
My father-in-law did it. Honestly, most of them were pretty skunky.
Did he have one good batch at least?
There was at least one or two batches.
I
was like, this is pretty good. But there was plenty where I just took a sip and was like,
no, this ain't happening.
Sorry, bud.
Yeah.
And I was always the guy he turned to for the sampling first, too. So I was the guinea pig. All right, well, hey, maybe they might help out with that for, the local brewers, but also for big brewers, too.
Mm-hmm.
Beer bots.
Beer bots
that could speed up the brewing process. So basically,
so we're talking automation and robotics here.
Yeah. So there's a company called what is it?
The Beer Bot.
I was saying,
you don't need to go past that. That's a great name for your company.
So all right. So this is a company that basically made these little beer bots.
Okay.
Whose job it is to drop on the top of the beer, and their idea is that they can basically speed up the process, the fermentation process in particular. So it says in the first step, normally in the first step, you've got sugars extracted from grains, malted barley, blah, blah, blah. Then you got to ferment, release carbon dioxide, do all that stuff. It can take
all that
up to
magic
4
starts
weeks.
happening.
Right, it can take up to 4 weeks. And
does.
if any little microorganism get in there, it can spoil,
You're screwed.
spoil the product. So now, these researchers have made 2 millimeter wide beer bot capsules by combining active yeast, magnetic iron oxide nanoparticles, and sodium alginate from algae, and dripping the mixture into a ferric chloride solution. They made one side of the spheres porous by exposing that half to an alkaline solution in an electrochemical cell. And basically what they do is they drop them in, they start sinking, they push themselves down, or they sink down, start pulling this stuff in, take care of some of that fermentation process. The carbon dioxide helps push them, propel them up to the surface, where they release the rest of it in there, sink back down again.
Oh, so they keep doing it.
Right.
It's like round and round and round.
So
up and down, up and down.
Basically, this just shortens up the time, much quicker, much less chance of microorganisms potentially getting involved. And apparently it says the beer bots were active for up to 3 more wort fermentation cycles. So not just a one-time use.
I gotcha.
You can take them, and also the neat thing about them too is when they're done and they settle at the bottom, because a lot of what takes also some time in this process, of course, is the sedimentation and all the stuff you got to filter out of the beer. I'm sure you've had beer where there's just a lot of stuff. I know some people like that.
Oh, it's an IPA. It's got all kinds of... No.
Some people like that. Like, no, I don't want to
drink beer through a filter.
I don't want to see like a bunch of sand sitting at the bottom of my beer glass when I'm done.
Yeah.
So this kind of helps out with that because these things now just hang out at the bottom. They use magnets to keep them attached to the bottom. So when you pour it out, you're not getting any of that stuff coming out with it too. So
that's fascinating.
So neat, just a little neat little potential new application.
It's curing the skunky beer. Phenomenon.
Potentially, yes.
Potentially
curing that and speeding up the process for brewing home.
Well, that is part of the problem. When you're doing the at-home brewery, who's got 4 weeks? Who's got 5 weeks? I mean, who's going to remember that, right? Yeah. And then you can't mess with it. That's part of the problem. These master brewers, they got the patience. We don't have the patience.
Yeah.
We need beer bots to make this stuff happen.
If I'm brewing beer, I'm just doing it. I'm like, okay, I want my beer. Is it time for my beer? Like, no, you got to make it wait. You sure?
No.
It's time for a beer. Like, I'm going to go ahead and try my beer now. And then you're like, no,
I got a tailgate next weekend. I need beer now.
Exactly.
I need my own brew.
All right. Good stuff. That's what's TEConnecting with us. Until next time, stay away from Toronto Airport if you've got millions of dollars worth of goods.
Yeah, just don't go.
Get yourself a handful of beer bots and drop them in that IPA to get rid of all that stuff. And as always, folks, please stay connected. TEConnect Podcast is brought to you by ELO. All right, Dean, we've talked a little bit about on the retail side, the back of the house, the supply chain stuff. But, retailers also need some help on the front of the house,
That's true. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's where ELO can help out here. When choosing a POS solution, you got to choose the leaders in touch technology.
Absolutely.
That's ELO.
Yeah.
ELO touch computers are the surest, fastest way to start a POS application and provide long-lasting use with many options. For modular configuration.
I love that modularity.
Yep. That's your favorite thing. Are you a Legos kid?
Absolutely.
Is that why you...
100%. Yeah, I could build, you start off with a car, but then it turns into a Jeep, and then it turns into a flying... Yeah, you need modularity, right?
Okay, I got you. Well, ELO has...
Not that the ELO stuff is going to start flying around.
I mean, I don't know what they're working on.
Attach wheels to it.
Maybe they could. They got all those peripheral connection stuff. Who knows?
Tell us about some of the modularity.
All right. ELO has the ELO Pause and iSeries touch monitors, which are available in a variety of sizes. They offer flexible mounting and support. Maybe that mount has a wheel.
Yeah, see, there you go. There it is.
And support for easy customization with a variety of ELO Edge Connect accessories to choose from for self-service and point of sale. So maybe you put it on that mount that's got wheels and you just drive around going, vroom.
Talk about mobile point of sale, bro.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
If an all-in-one solution is what your customers need, ELO PayPoint has you covered, offering everything a merchant needs with a fully integrated receipt printer, barcode scanner, cash drawer, and MSR, all in a compact and sleek design. To learn more about how ELO can simplify your next POS project, check out the link in the show notes or contact your BlueStar Evo representative. TEConnect Podcast is also brought to you by Zebra. Zebra industrial printers are designed for harsh and demanding environments. With rugged durability and future-proof adaptability, their user-friendly barcode label and RFID printers are designed to provide 24/7 reliability.
You needed some dramatic music behind you there.
I did, didn't I?
Dun, dun, yes.
Mark, you need to start
very
working on
impactful.
We need dramatic
what you
music
just said
for
right
the
there.
ads.
Yes. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just envisioning.
Yeah, I got you.
Yes.
Don't compromise. Choose Zebra for high to mid-volume applications. Now, we were just talking earlier about, media and all that supplies and stuff, whatever.
Yep.
I mean, if you're getting involved in that, then obviously you might be trying to sell some printers to do all this cool printing for them, too.
For sure.
Some top of the line.
Yeah.
So introducing the latest additions to Zebra's industrial printing portfolio, the ZT111 and ZT231. These new printers give you the best performance and long-lasting durability you've come to expect from the global leader in barcode label printing. ZT111 is a budget-friendly entry-level light industrial computer with fast print speeds, crisp print quality, and an all-metal frame.
Yep.
The ZT231 offers even more durability, faster print speeds, a color touchscreen, and an RFID model while still being affordable. They got everything.
RFID right there.
There you go. Zebra printers are built to last, secure, and provide years of performance, especially when used with Zebra certified supplies.
Yes.
Check out the link in the show notes to learn more about the new ZT printers.